Hi everyone, I'm Megan with Fine Designs by Megan, and today I'm going to show you the tutorial for my tie-dye leopard swirl cup. I planned on doing this a few weeks ago, but unfortunately I had some health issues and it kind of put me behind, but I'm going to show you today how you do it. What I have done is, because this cup is in 3 parts, but I did the first part already on one, so I can show you how to do the leopard print on here after I'm done doing part 1. So this is part 1 finished, and then I'm going to show you part 2. So first we're going to work on part 1, and all I've done is I've just painted the cup white and then added me my gold swirl, and on that I want it to be able to be seen from tip to tip. So we're going to start doing the tie-dye in the middle. And if you've watched my previous video of my tie-dye tumbler, we're going to actually do a different tie-dye than that one. So with this one, we're going to use 3 colors to start off with. And what I want to do is I want to get a paintbrush that is very thin pointed. And I get my paints, so the paints that I use for this is the same ones I used on my original one. You can get this 6 paint set at Hobby Lobby. It's $12.99. But you can use your 40% off coupon if you want, and it comes down to like 7 or 8. But that's the paints that I use for this. Now with this one, I call this the burst tie-dye instead of the swirl tie-dye, and I'm going to start off with my pink, and I'm going to find my middle point, which is about right here, and this is on the 20-ounce built tumbler. I like the built ones for my tie-dye leopards because it's wider, so I can have more visible, if that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start in my middle, so I'm going to choose about right here, and I'm just going to come out with my pink. Doesn't have to be perfect. And if you want your tie-dyes to be skinnier, you can use a skinnier brush. This is just the one that I picked up, and usually the one that I use. Going to do our burst. Okay. And then we're going to go back on the pink in a little bit. But for now, this is just what we're doing, okay? Let me see. I'm going to try to get me a skinnier brush. I really like skinny ones on these, just to add some definition on my lines. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my paintbrush. I'm going to wet it, get off the pink, and we're going to pick up the yellow, okay? So we're going to dab the yellow. Instead of going on to orange, we're going to just do the yellow, and we're going to start into the pink where the pink was, and you want to make sure you're touching because it's going to turn orange. And that's what you want. That's how you're going to get your orange, by mixing some of your pink in there. And it makes it look, the transition of colors, it just brings it out more when you do this way. So just do like how we did the pink. Just touch it, the tips of the pink with the yellow, so we can get that orange transition. And at the end, if you want more color, orange, you can go add some orange in if you want. It's just your choice. And on these, I make my lines a little bit longer because we are having to add some color, the additional color to change it. So I do make my lines a little bit longer on this one. Okay. And then now what you're going to do is you're going to get a little bit of the yellow on your brush, not a whole lot, and you're going to want to go in. And this way you're getting different lines through your pink of the orange, if that makes any sense. So your transition in your orange goes in with lines in there, okay? Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on to the blue and add our blue in, just like we did the yellow. So we're going, and so the yellow and the pink, we're gonna do this with the blue. And just touch the tip of that, of the yellow, and it's gonna turn the green. And you do not have to do it like this. This is just how I do it on mine. You could do the regular swirl tie-dye and do it the other way or whatever, but this is just how I do mine. And I sell a ton of these cups. Everyone seems to like them. So we're just gonna keep going. Touching a little bit of the yellow. Doing our swirls out. And then just like up with the orange, you can go back and add in some more green. I do a little bit, and I'll show you guys that at the end. If I feel like it needs a little bit of a touch-up of green, I'll go add it in. And you want to make sure you're touching the yellow or you're not going to have any of the green. And remember, with tie-dye is not perfect, so your lines don't have to be perfect. And that's what makes it unique when they're all different. Okay, so now that we've made it all the way around, I am going to go back and add a little bit going in. And make sure I really touch up on those lines of the blue and the yellow to make sure they mix well enough to give you some green. And I like to try to go where there's white in the cracks. I like to try to go in between those whites and make it go up into them. And then that way it looks like it's actually mixing pretty well up into the previous color, if that makes any sense. Okay. Gonna go back, add a little bit in there. Okay. So there's where we're at right there. Now what we're gonna do is with that, clean it, and we're going to add pink back, and then that will help get your purple So we're going to start at your tips of your blues and add your purples in there. Make sure you're hitting it really well, your blue tips, so you'll have your purple. And sometimes I really brush mine and make sure they're mixed really well, so it gives me more of my transition of color. And this will probably be my last one that I actually go all the way around. And then I'll show you what happens when you hit your gold. Okay, so now that we got that on there, I am going to go back and make it go in just a little bit. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. And once you put epoxy on this, it changes like the whole look of it. It really does. It brings out all the color, it brightens it up. So now that that's done, I'm going to go with my yellow again. And we're just gonna go on the white parts. So from about right here to about right here. So let's add that in there. So we're gonna start about right here. And we're gonna touch in the pink. Transition that orange in there. And while we're down here doing this one, I'm going to go ahead and go back in and have my parts go in. So that's how we did that one. And we're going to go on this side and just start over here. Alright, grab the blue, start down here, and we're going to start about right in here. Touch the yellow. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and go back up and blend those colors up into the yellow. Creates a little bit more of the green. So we're going to go on this side, do it over here, start about right there. Make sure you're touching the yellow so you can create your green. And go this way, blend that color up. And you can go over your colors that touch as much as you want to help blend them. I don't spend a whole lot of time blending them. I do quite a bit of cups, so I try to go as fast as I can. I average about anywhere from 30 to 50 cups a week, depending on what time it is. So you can just play with that, blend them together. And so there's that transition. And now we're going to go back with our blue, or our pink, get our purple. So we're going to go in now. Okay, we're going to go on to this side over here, add our pink. And I'm moving pretty fast. Once you do a lot of these, you go pretty fast. So we're just adding our pink in there. Make sure we go as much as we can. Okay. Alright, so we're going to go back. We're going to blend in our pink up. What it's looking like. Now we're gonna go with yellow again. We're just gonna go back over it just like we've been doing. And we're almost down to our corner, so we're gonna go to about right here, and then we'll add our gold in, and our gold will more than likely cover some of this, but it's better just to have it all done in case we need it. So I do my tie-dye a little bit more into my gold, even though it will be covered. So I just went back, did that real quick, blended it. Now you're getting your good transition of orange. Same with this. I'm gonna mix it in, make it go up. I'm gonna grab a little bit more yellow, add it down a little bit. Then we're gonna grab our blue and do our green. Transition with our yellow. Okay. Same over here. Now we're going to do pink, and that might be our last, maybe. It's probably going to be our last over on this side. So there's our finish of the burst, and we're gonna worry about the bottom in a minute. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back with our pink and we're gonna brighten up the center. Okay, just brighten it up a little bit. And any areas that you think it needs it, just add it in there. And then what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to go in with my orange, with actual orange, okay? And I'm gonna very lightly just add a little bit of orange, not a whole lot, just a little bit, to where those colors met and had your orange. So you just add a tiny little bit in there. And it just brightens it up a little bit, okay? And add some of that color into it. So we're gonna go down to here and add some orange. Just lightly add a little bit of orange. Very light. Because you want most of your orange to be from the transition of colors. But this just gives it a little bit more of a pop right here. See how I'm adding just a tiny bit in there? And that just adds that little bit more of that orange color. Brightens it up a little bit. You don't want a whole lot. It just helps give it a lighter and a darker orange transition, okay? And we're gonna go down to the next one and do the same. Just add a little bit in there. I've been fighting a cold, so if you hear my little sniffles, that's why. And then the paint absolutely hates the gold, so it doesn't like to be on the gold. I'm gonna fix that up a little bit right there. Go on the other side, just add a little bit of orange into the mix. And I barely have any orange on my paintbrush, just a little bit to give it a little color. See if this heater's on. There we go. It's cold where I live. I live in Arkansas and it's kind of cold. Getting a little cold in here. Okay. Go into this one. And you can add it up, you can add it down. Just whatever you think until you like the way that it looks. I'm gonna add a little bit into the end of that. So that looks pretty good on my orange. Now you're gonna go on your green, do the same thing, just add a little bit of green, not a whole lot. I didn't even put any green down. Go in there just like we just did with the orange, just add it lightly to the green blue transition areas. very lightly just paint it on there. And I'm just going to add some down into the white areas of the blue. And that just makes the green look like it's popping more through the blue. Okay, on to our lower one. Same thing, just add it in there lightly. You can make it go up, make it go down, just whatever you want. Into the yellow. Okay, so that looks good. Now let's go on our last one, which is purple. And remember, once we add that epoxy, it's going to change this whole brightness of this, okay? Which we're going to let this one dry. And once this is dry, we'll go back and we'll finish up the first step. Because this is your first step. Now, go down to the lower purples. Purple. Let's get 2 more purples, and then we'll do the bottom real quick. The bottom, I don't really do anything super fancy on it. I do add color down there. Looks good. So there is our tie-dye burst on this. And now, so what I do is I do it about half. So we're gonna do, let's see, I see some pink, so we'll add some pink right here. I just roll over the colors that are near the bottom. I just add them down here. And there's some pink. We'll do yellow, just let them mix. Green. I really don't do anything fancy on the bottom. I do add the tie-dye and stuff down, or the leopard down there, and that helps, but on this one, it don't have to be too fancy, not at all. Okay, so we're gonna set this to aside. Okay, I'm gonna set this over here on my stand. Okay, we're gonna let this dry for just a little bit, and while that is drying, we are going to put that brush in there. Okay, so we're gonna grab paste to the side, grab a piece of parchment paper, okay. So with this, I like to use, it's Adhesive from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's my favorite, but you can use Mod Podge, you can use whatever one you want. That's just the one that I prefer, okay? The glitters that we're going to use are Nookie from Peachy Olive Glitters, Athena from Peachy Olive Glitters, and these are the colors you're gonna do on step 1. So this is what we're gonna put over the tie-dye. So on step 2, this is step 2. So this is already cured. I did the epoxy method, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. I flattened out my Athena. So this is Athena, this is Nookie, okay? And we are going to do our leopard spots on here. And for this one, I just have them in just random containers. I do a lot of leopard, so I don't keep them in their jars as much when I use them a lot. So we're going to use basic Blackboard from Peachy Olive Glitters, and then this one doesn't have, let me see. Okay, we're going to use Cold Brew from Peachy Olive Glitters. I prefer Peachy Olive Glitters. It's the main glitter that I use, if you can't tell from behind me. I know there's other glitters. You can just find the ones that you like. I will put a link in the description below of these glitters that I use, the glue that I use, and yeah, we'll just do that. I'll have a description links for all of the stuff that I've used today. So on this one, I'm gonna grab me another paper towel. I'll show you the brushes that I use. Okay, I use stencil brushes. That's how I do my leopard, is with stencil brushes. You can use any brushes that you want. This is just what I prefer, okay? And how I do mine, so on the spots, I use the thicker stencil brush. On the black, I use a thinner stencil brush. So we're just going to dab the glue on there, and I just literally just spot it, okay? That's really all I do. It's not hard, it's super easy, and we're just going to spot, okay? Random spots. And then all my little spots that I add them in after this. For right now, we're just going to leave spots, and we'll add all our cute little things in after I see where all my spots are. We're going to do a couple on the bottom. So we're going to make this one go onto the bottom, do that one on the bottom, and that one. Set that down, and I'm just going to sprinkle my brown all over. See where my spots are. Okay. I'm going to get my little blower, and this is what I use to blow off my excess glitter. So now that I have my brown spots, I'm going to go in And I'm going to add my smaller brown spots, my little ones, just tiny little things. You don't have to add a lot, you can just add a little here and there. Now we're done with our spots. So we're going to go in and we're going to add the black around it, okay? And my phone over there. Most of the cups I make have leopard on them, so I'm pretty fast at leopard. I try to go slower, but I can't. So on the black, we're going to do the smaller stencil brush, and we're just gonna lightly tap it and just go around. I just lightly go around the leopard spot. And you can do them, leopard doesn't have to be perfect. You can do it however you want. I don't make mine anything fancy, but I just literally just dab it. Okay, we're gonna do some spots are all the way around, some spots just are 3 areas. We're going to add our black in. And then once your black's on there and you start adding it, you can add just random little black area, like black spots additionally on there. My watch keeps going off, I'm sorry. Everyone always messaging me. Okay, so for this one, I think we're going to do that. Around it. Okay, so this one on the bottom, it goes onto the bottom, so you just kind of have to pay attention down there which ones you did that to. And try not to make your glitter or your glue too thick when you're on the bottom one, so it's easier when you epoxy and have to sand down. Okay, so now that that's all done and all of our spots are done, we're just going to look at it and see where we can add in any of the random little black spots. So you don't even have to do the little black spots. I just do because it just adds a little bit to it. And they're not perfect, so you just do them any way that you want. We're going to add that. And that looks pretty good to me. So there's your leopard on this. So now this is completed, okay? Your leopard's done, your tie-dye's done, all your coverings are done. So what I do is I let mine sit for about an hour and I let my glue and all of this dry. Then once it's set, I use the 2x clear sealer spray and I spray it twice, but I always make sure that I have all of my loose glitter off. Before you spray it, make sure all of your loose glitter is off of this so that it's not has any random glitters added on there, okay? And I'll let it sit for an hour. Then once this is sat for an hour, I'll start epoxying it. I epoxy it once or twice, and then I sand it, and then I'll add the decal if they want their name on it, and then I'll epoxy it again. But this is what it looks like. And once you add your epoxy, this pulls out the color from the glitter, and it's absolutely gorgeous, okay? So there's what it looks like finished. So this is part 2 done. Part 3 is epoxying it and finishing it up. Okay, now we're going to take our part 1 and we're going to finish it. Okay. So put that glitter up. Now, okay, what we're going to do is grab our gloves. Okay. And I'm always in a time crunch. You can use whatever epoxy that you want to use. Me, I'm always trying to get all my cups done as soon as I can, as fast as I can. So the epoxy that I use, put that over, is I use Facet by CC DIY. It's my favorite. I've used several different ones. I just keep trying different ones. My second favorite is KS Resin Liquidy Split. I try to get the epoxies that cure the fastest. That's just what works for me because I do so many cups. So what we're going to do, these are new bottles. Open them up. Probably just use my old bottles because we don't really need that much. Just use the old ones. Get it. Then I don't have to open it up. There should be enough in these old bottles to finish this. So I'm just literally going to make 5 mLs. You really don't need 5 mLs, but I always like to make enough and not be short. Okay, so we're going to just make 5 mL. So I'm gonna do that over here in my epoxy section and away from me. I usually wear a face mask, but I don't really have the time to put all that on. So we're just going to measure that out. I turned off my heater to my she shed last night, so everything's a little bit cold in here, slowly warming up. Alright, now that that's done, mix this up real quick. I usually don't use popsicle sticks, but when I do my base coats of glitter, I just use them. They're cheap and it's easy just to throw them away. So we're just going to add a little bit on here and see how that just pulls out the color once you add on the epoxy. And you don't need a whole lot. If you're used to doing glitter coats with epoxy, the epoxy method, then this should be just fine for you and easy. If you're not, this is actually the best route, I think, is the epoxy method. So you just need enough. You want it to be kind of tacky. If you're pulling, then you know you're doing good, okay? You have plenty. But see how the epoxy look, it just brightens it up in your transition of colors. So this has epoxy on it and this don't. So look how bright that color difference is. It's gorgeous. Sure that it is completely covered from top to bottom, and then we'll do the bottom. Okay, so now that that's done, okay, I'm gonna start with Athena first as my main color, and we're just lightly going to sprinkle it. I'm going to sprinkle down the middle of my gold first and just kind of let it go where it wants to go. Okay, and then I'm going to go out from there, and I'm just going to let it fall onto my tie-dyes, fine. And I'm going to just go down the side of my tie-dye. Some of it's going to be covered, that's fine. Okay, and we're gonna go up the other, or we're gonna come over here and go down this angle and see where it's gonna take us. Okay, so now that that's on, we're gonna put more on there. And that's about where it's going to look like. Your angles, okay? So make sure we're good. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on my bottom. I like to do about half on the bottom gold and the other half tie-dye colors. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to go back over it. But for now, that's enough. So I'm going to put that paper over here. I don't use the same one as I do my Nookie because I don't want to mix any of my gold in there. So I'm going to tap this off into my trash can. And we're just going to lightly put our Nookie. And if it goes in the gold, that's fine. And this is by Peachy Olive too. Make sure you put it on your bottom and around your bottom's edge, so you're completely covered. And then I like to just randomly go down the side of my gold, make sure that it actually transitions into the gold and blends into it on both sides. Okay, because you have some gold already on your tie-dye, so it helps blend it and it's not just one solid line on either side. Okay. Now that that's good, and I put pretty full coverage already over that one, so we don't have to go back and add more. I don't always do that with Athena, just because Athena's chunky. So now we're going to go back and make sure that there's no gaps or empty spots, and it's fully covered on the Athena part. Okay. And now I'm going to go, and I'm just going to lightly tap my gold and make sure it is all the way down. This will help if it's laying flat when you go to do your leopard, and also when you go to epoxy, it will save your arm some pain from sanding. Okay, if you have just a cup that is fully chunky, you can roll it on a clean sheet of parchment paper, but I don't want to mix any of my chunky into my Nookie, so we're just going to lay it with our finger. Anyways, so there it is. So this is step 1. The leopard that we just did was step 2, and then step 3 is just finishing it and epoxying it and sanding it. I usually put about 2 or 3 to 4 layers of epoxy. It just depends on how good my epoxy does. Like I said before, will leave a description down in the description box of all the supplies that I used today, and I will also post a picture of the finished tumbler of what they look like. If you have any questions, you can drop them down in the comment section, and I will answer all of your questions. And leave me a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you, everyone. You'll have a blessed day.